Danny Segura for MMA Junkie here in South Florida. I'm standing next to Kevin Lee, who is a new fighter at Eagle FC. First of all, Kevin Lee, we're getting ready for your fight. You know, you're a few weeks away. 165 overall. How has this camp been? Has it changed a little bit since you don't have to cut down to 155?
Yeah, so far the camp isn't starting, but pre-camp has been really smooth. No injuries going into it. I'm at the right weight going into it. I could put on a little bit more weight, getting ready for 165 versus 55. And it's just less anxiety and stress, knowing that I don't have as big of a cut ahead of me. When you take a 55 fight and you know you got 40 pounds to cut, it's half the camp is spent on that. But this time I get to focus on Diego and overcoming what he presents.
That's awesome. And I want to talk about sort of your life, right? It's kind of changed a little bit. You told me that you moved down to South Florida. You've been training at Sanford MMA.
Yep.
How has that been like, and what pushed that decision?
Yeah, it's been crazy. You know, it's a crazy bunch of events how life works. I was already kind of looking at Florida to get out of Las Vegas. It was just time for me to make a change in my life and kind of restart over. So I feel like now I'm getting that fresh start that I really need. New promotion, new place to live, new training environment and stuff. And even though it's hard leaving Vegas and leaving all my training partners and all my coaches and people that I've grown over the years with, this it's a new exciting like part of my life to start.
Yeah. That's awesome. And how was the transition? Did your team understand? Obviously, like you're looking out for the best of your career, but you know it's sometimes tough to kind of leave a team, right? How was that process?
It's challenging, you know. Whenever you got to say goodbye to certain people, there's some people that I'm always gonna stick with. You know, Dewey Cooper's always gonna be in my corner, and as far as like my core team, will still be together. You know, this is 2022. You know, we can talk over the phone, we can FaceTime, we can do all these other avenues, but not to see them on a day-to-day basis, it's hard on both ends of it. But I think I've always picked the right people around me and the people who really want what's best for me in my life. So they knew like, okay, it's about time. You know, we want to see you do better.
And how much training have you been able to do at Sanford under Henry Hooft?
Yeah, I just started a few days ago. We actually really getting started. You know, before it was just visiting here and out, but now a few days ago we really started, and so far it's going smooth. You know, they train hard. They got a lot of great champions up there, and a lot of guys around my weight class too. So I think this is going to be a good addition to my career.
How do you like South Florida? I'm sure a lot more different than Vegas, right?
Yeah,
Very humid.
Yeah, it was over living in the desert, bro. I was getting at that point. You living in the desert, so I was kind of been over that. Yeah, the beach is way nicer. You get to see it's just nicer. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And let's talk about this 165 weight class because I think this is super interesting. You've been a huge proponent. You know, in your days in the UFC, you were kind of one of the few or one of the main guys that were campaigning for a 165 weight class. Eagle FC has stepped up and made the division. Overall, like, did you ever think that this was going to come to fruition? Like, did you ever think that you one day were going to fight at 165 pounds?
Yeah, absolutely. There was never no doubt. Anybody who can look at this logically can see, okay, it needs to go every 10 pounds. That just makes the most amount of sense, especially when you start getting around that 55, 170, where most men are in the world. You know, when you look around, most men are between 175 to 195 pounds. So it makes more sense that we have more weight classes around there. So for Eagle to do it first, I tip my hat to him. I thought that the UFC would be smart enough to do it first, but we'll show them that this is the future and this is the way it should be.
Yeah, no, certainly super interesting. And one of the biggest things that was discussed throughout your career is like you were full of potential. I mean, you still are, obviously. You know, the outside of the cage, inside of the cage, you always showed flashes of brilliance. But in the UFC, sort of, you know, you did reach some highs. You fought for, obviously, an interim title, but you also had some downs. Do you feel like at 165, this is where we're going to be able to see your full potential?
Yeah, I think so. It's about time that you see a more locked in, more focused me, one that's really found his home, you know, and I think at this new weight class and being the pioneer of it, I'll be able to show that and really unlock the potential that I got. Like, I think a lot of people can see what I have and what I have available. Even when we talk about the UFC, people gloss over it, but for years, you know, when Conor McGregor was getting ready to fight Floyd Mayweather, and you talk about that interim title that I did take against Tony Ferguson, I had the highest level UFC executives, Ari Emanuel, and all these other people saying thank you for taking that fight. That allowed them to see the future potential of the UFC. It wasn't just all like Connor now, you know. We can build other guys too. So by me taking that fight, I know what I bring to the table, and I know the potential that I got, and now it's time for me to realize that, and I think this is a perfect place for me to do that.
How was it like in your mindset? Because towards the end, it kind of felt like that's what you were looking for, right? You would go down to 155, then back up to 170. You know, what was that mindset like towards the end? Was it that or just kind of seeing where the optimal weight class would be within those switches?
Yeah, I was getting much bigger, and coming off the knee surgeries, that made it more of a challenge to get ready for a 55-pound cut. And just the last couple years, you know, I almost killed myself with that Tony Ferguson cut. And that's not something that I take lightly. So the last couple years have been kind of this, I don't know, I couldn't find my home for it. So I'm glad that now they're finally getting on board. I thought that the UFC would look out for our best interests at one point, but obviously they wouldn't.
Yeah. And one last thing on the UFC. Your release was like a huge surprise because I mean you did have some losses towards the end, but you were headlining events. You were fighting, Charles Oliveira not so long ago, who today is the champion. You were fighting, the very best. Were you surprised at it, and did they give you any reasons as to why they weren't gonna keep doing business with you?
Yeah, I mean, to say I was surprised, no, not really. I know the back end and all the stuff that goes behind closed doors. And they really showed me no respect towards the end. I feel like I ate a lot of the flack for guys like Francis Ngannou in his situation with them. They used me as kind of like a pawn and a scapegoat. And really, I hope other fighters kind of see that that's what they do to you. They didn't like the way the negotiations was handling with Francis, so they took it out on me to kind of show them a lesson. But I think in the end, we're gonna show that you can't necessarily treat people like this, and there's many other ways to make money and kind of outshine them. So we're gonna beat them one way or the other.
Yeah, you guys are share the same management. You and Francis Ngannou. What inclinations did you feel that was sort of the case? That they were sort of taking it out of you?
Honestly, it happened months ago. Just little stuff, I'm was still recovering from my knee injury, but I'm still hearing these ramblings of what's going on with Francis and them creating that interim title and all that. And then all of a sudden, oh, you can't come do your physical therapy at this time. Oh, you want credentials? No, we're gonna have to see. And I'm like, okay, I'm starting to see what's going on here. And then after my fight with Rodriguez, they just gave me the shit end of the stick. So, I can see the writing on the wall. But honestly, it's going to be a blessing in disguise. I'm starting a new division. I really hold no ill will towards them. I'm one of the most recognizable faces in all of MMA. I can go anywhere in the world and people know who I am. So I thank them for that, and we're going to go on, and I'm going to push on and be a world champion.
Certainly. Now, just talking about your tenure here at Eagle FC. As soon as you were released, a lot of people just immediately thought, Bellator. Obviously, your brother fights at Bellator. PFL was thrown around. Eagle FC, maybe wasn't at the top of the list, but obviously, here we are at the Eagle FC studios in Miami. What pushed the decision to sign with Eagle FC? Was it 165?
It was a bunch of stuff. For one, money talks. Money talks. This is prize fighting. And they paid me what a champion deserves to be paid. So for my first fight, I'll make more than a lot of UFC champions. It was the 165 pound that definitely played a factor into it. And it was honestly the freedom that they was going to give me in the contract. Sometimes, and I think Francis even alluded to this, sometimes it's not just about the dollar figure. They can offer you the money, but if you don't have the freedom to do what you want to do and move around, then that shit's worth nothing. But they offered me all of that here, and that made it make more sense than somewhere like PFL or Bellator, where you're just one of the guys as well.
By the way, do you know the name for 165? Because I keep calling you 165, but I haven't seen like an actual name. Is it like junior welterweight or what?
We're going super lightweight,
okay.
The super lightweight division. So I like the name. It's got a nice ring to it. to be the first 165-pound super lightweight champion. That sounds amazing to me. You know.
That's awesome. Well, Kevin, congrats on this new deal. Seems you're very happy. Looking forward to your fight against Diego Sanchez here at Eagle FC 44. And yeah, looking forward to this new chapter at 165. I think this is something fans have been waiting for in your career for a long time.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And for the sport, you know, this super lightweight division, it ain't going nowhere. The UFC will adopt it eventually, and we're going to give them a good reason. But to be the first champ is going to be nice.
Certainly. Thank you very much.